So I want to start with one question, Sheikh. What was Shaykh Muhammad like at 10 years old?
So Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ala amma ba'd. So 10 years old, when I was a little kid growing up in Winnipeg, which is like middle of Canada, and I memorized about like 20 surahs, which is something like half of Juz Amma. And in that little town, that little city, that was like, I knew more Quran than like everybody. So I was Mr. Cool. I memorized, half of Juz Amma. And that was me, 10 years old. I went to Quran school when I was 11, 12. But 10 years old, that was just me hanging out in Winnipeg, growing up with my bicycle.
Do you remember anything about how you saw life in terms of like what you wanted to do or any like what you wanted to grow up to be, anything like that?
Being frank here, the city that I was in, I was like the only brown kid in the school, in the entire school. Like the one kid who had, the name Mohammad. And I remember the teacher once saying that, or the most popular name in the world was Mohammed. And then nobody believed that because they're like, Mohammed, you're the only kid in this whole school, in the whole city, named Mohammed. And there was a very small Muslim community, but so I don't know. I experienced a lot of quote unquote racism growing up, and it really kind of shaped me to. If you see me do things differently than what normal people did, is because I didn't fit in growing up, and that kind of molded me to. Well, if I'm going to succeed in life, I need to do my own thing. So.
Amazing. Okay, so we have you in this small town, Winnipeg. Whenever I see a map of Canada and they show Winnipeg, I always point to it. I'm like, the only reason I know it is because you mention it, right? And so you're in this small town. How does it go from being in this tiny town where like you're one of the few Muslims there to today, alhamdulillah, where you've built something like AlMaghrib Institute, which, alhamdulillah, is global. It's in so many different cities and countries, and you have the top instructors and everything. How does it go from there to there?
It's a big leap right there. I would say that, my motto being in a small town is, man, I got to get out of this town. Tracy Chapman. Man, I'm gonna get my Corvette. I'm driving out of here. I remember one person saying, I was telling them, on one of my visits back home to Winnipeg, and they were like, oh, you're gonna travel overseas, you're gonna study Islam, you're gonna do this, and then you're gonna come back here to Winnipeg and be the imam, right? I'm like, hell no, I'm not coming back here. I'm gone. I'm never coming back. So I always had this. I wanted to go to the big city. I had opportunities to go to big cities, Washington, D.C. and other places. And I took those. And in those big cities, I was connected with big players. And alhamdulillah, those kind of connections made a difference to raising my game and also, spreading the word around. Yeah.
So when you got back from, because obviously lots of people go to Medina University, alhamdulillah, but not everyone goes away and then starts something like AlMaghrib on that level. So what kind of happened? Like when you got back from there, you decided obviously not to be the Imam in Winnipeg. So what did you do then?
So I always tell people the story. When I was like in first year in Medina University, I was excited about what I was learning. I was there in Medina for 6 years. So from day one, I was excited about what I was learning. Basically, I had come from a background where half of Juz Amma was, the most knowledgeable kid in the town, to Medina University, where all these amazing people, Muslims from around the world, were coming together. And I wanted to share it. And I just had this idea, when I go home, I'm going to do this night school, and I'm going to get teachers, and, everything's going to be, I wanted to share what I learned from day one, and I always had that attitude. And alhamdulillah, again, I had good mentors in my small city that had big dreams, and they were kind of like sharing their dreams with me, and that kind of like built me up as well.
Okay, so this is quite interesting because I want to kind of get into the mindset a little bit of someone who's at a Medina University, and obviously a lot of people have said that it's very tough to be there. But how is it? Why do you think that you had that kind of mindset where you, instead of like in year one, you're saying you were thinking about how you're going to go back and kind of use this? Like, where did that come from?
So what's interesting is that I'll share with you kind of like a personal story that I was not the smartest kid in Medina University. And there were much more, and a lot of British students were much more smarter than me. But now what happened? So here's the thing. So there was one British student. He's actually a good friend of mine who was very knowledgeable. Like, this is a person who was like always getting marks in the upper 90s, and I'm like 70s, and trying to pass exams and stuff like that. And there was a time after when I graduated that I got invited to the UK, and and they asked this brother about me. And then he's like, Mohammed, he doesn't know anything. He used to, flunk grades and stuff like that. So they retracted my invitation.
Whoa.
because this person's like, look, there's more knowledgeable people that you can invite. And then later on, when AlMaghrib and things got bigger, then they re-invited me. I'm like, look, I'm never coming back to your thing. But what I learned from that is that it's more than just education. If you look at like Americans in general, so many countries think they're smarter than the Americans, but the Americans dominate. So there's something more than just smarts that gets you to the next level. It's not just, hey, if I do good in school, that I will be successful. That's not the whole picture.
Okay.
And alhamdulillah that I spent years in the US, and I kind of like adopted that kind of like, business mindset and bigger ideas and leading people and stuff like that. I learned that kind of attitude